Here we can consider the three characters in there. And it was the setting of the real life. It is the they are very set. It is setting in the real life. Are portrayed એટલે drawn, ચિત્રણ કરું, નિરૂપણ કરું. A portrait in a plot, in a plot of more or less. My dear, can understand here that whenever we have to discuss about the plot, there are simple plot and complex plot. That's why we can say that more or less complexity. Sometimes the writer began beginning, middle of that, and it was a more or less complexity. આખી શોર્ટ નોટ કેવો આવું થાય. નવલકથા એ કાલ્પનિક ગદ્યનું વર્ણનાત્મક સ્વરૂપ જે પ્રમાણસર રીત લંબાઈ સાથે રજૂ થયેલું હોય, જેની અંદર પ્લોટ અને કેરેક્ટર એટલે પાત્રો અને કથા વસ્તુ એ વાસ્તવિક જીવનનું પ્રતિનિધિત્વ કરતું હોય, જેનું ચિત્રણ એ પ્લોટ કથા વસ્તુમાંની અંદર વધારે કે ઓછા જટિલ રીતે કોમ્પ્લેક્સિટી એટલે જટિલ રીતે રજૂ કરેલું હોય. There the definition is given by the Oxford Dictionary. You can say that according to Oxford Dictionary, or you can say in the words of shorter Oxford Dictionary, novel is a fictitious prose narrative of considerable length in which character and action representative of real life are portrayed in a plot of more or less complexity. Here one or more definition, if you want to there, I have to discuss about that. Here there are the, because those are the novel, because novel is a new form. It was not a particular history before the 18th century. That's why it was less quoted by the other critics, and that's why those are the writers who applied new techniques in the novel writing. They have to write down, they try to define novel in the preface of their writing, because before that no one know about that, because novel has not a long history before the 18th century, because it was the original form of English literature. That's why they have to try that. We have to say that according to that, some of the definition of the novel is the interpretation of human life by means of fictitious narrative in prose. Whatever that it moves, it is the main, you can say, essence of all the definition. બધી નવલકથા, બધી કહેવાય ડેફિનેશનનું સાર આમાં આવી ગઈ. આમાં એ જ વસ્તુ શું કહે છે કે ઇન્ટરપ્રિટેશન ઓફ હ્યુમન લાઈફ, રિયલ લાઈફ, ઇન્ટરપ્રિટેશન ઓફ હ્યુમન લાઈફ, માનવીય જીવનનું અર્થઘટન, મીન્સ ઓફ ફિક્ટિટિયસ નેરેટિવ, મીન્સ ઓફ કોના દ્વારા? સાધન કાલ્પનિક માધ્યમ દ્વારા, કાલ્પનિકના માધ્યમ દ્વારા, in a prose. The words here and there, the word was changed, meaning was the same. Interpretation of the human life by the means of, you can say, prose narrative, fictitious narrative in a prose. Yes. Further, if you want to that, we can say that one more definition that at Clarissa Reeves defined the novel. The one of the critics, a writer, Clarissa Reeves, he defined the novel here and there, a picture of real life and manner and the times in which it is written. Novels is a picture of real life. We have to know about it. Picture of real life, and we can say that the manner and the time which the real life picture, the manner and the time in which it is written. If it is written in the 16th century, but it is written in 18th century, it expresses the picture of the 18th century. If it is written in the 19th century, or we can say that it is in the 20th century, or now it is in the post-modernism, means the 21st century. So it expresses the real picture of a particular time, in the words of Clarissa Reeves. Further, Professor Warren said that novel is a fictitious narrative which contain a plot. What is the Professor Warren? We can say that define that novel is a fictitious narrative which has the, we can say that contains a plot. The journey under the plot. Yes, I can say that there are a number of definitions, dear friend. Even the R.L. Stevenson, Richard Louis Stevenson, an American poet or American writer, who can say that the novel is a not transcript of life to be judged by exactitude, but a simple simplification of some side or point of life, stand in the fall by significant simplicity. Even that in the short, dear friends, there are a number of definitions we discussed, but all the definitions include in the one single definition of shorter Oxford Dictionary. And now we can understand that novels. And from that one definition, we have to justify those are the classified, those are the elements of the novel. And these are the elements we discussed here. The first element in the novel is the storytelling element, or we can say that only the storytelling. Because you know about that, everybody like from little child, little baby to the old, એટલે કે અબાલ વૃદ્ધ, નાનું બાળકથી માંડીને અબાલ એટલે બોલી ના શકતું બાળક હોય કે પછી એકદમ વયોવૃદ્ધ વ્યક્તિ, everybody like the story. Then once again you start, okay, I start the story, people remember that. It has a storytelling element which catch up or attract the attention of the, yes my dear friend, it attract the attention of the readers. And it has the, we can say that the storytelling element was expressed in a form of narration or narrative. Just we know about this. There was a long ago, there was a beautiful village, and there are a number of the people living in that village, and there was one poor people man who live in that village, and that was one day happened that everybody do the hard work, and one day what happened that he was going to his park, his working place on the middle of the path. He saw a scene, and that was in the scene there was a narration of the story કે લોંગ ઘણા વર્ષો પહેલાંની વાત છે. ઘણા એક ગરીબ વ્યક્તિ હતો, દરરોજ કામે જતો હતો. રસ્તામાં એને એક દિવસ એવું જોયું કે, and that was it is in a form of element. What happened? What he said that? And it is, we can say that a novel must be have the storytelling element, and this was the, we can find out in the technique of the planned narrative or direct narration. In the planned narrative or direct narration, the writer used the story element, and that was he was interwoven or knitting the storytelling element in the plot, which attract the attention of the reader or interest of the reader in the story. વાર્તાનું તત્વ, કથા તત્વ, કથા બીજ, વાર્તા તત્વ, it was a, we can say, storytelling element or theme interwoven in the novel writing, કે જે એ વાચકોનું ધ્યાન એની તરફ ખેંચી રાખે. A second element is the plot. We have little discuss about it because, dear friend, we have to discuss much more about it in the paper 5, foundation course of literary criticism, unit 4. Then the plot. Just we can be, plot is a systematic element of incidental event, and here we can say that more or less plot. We can say that just generally I can compare the short story and novel. A short story has a single plot, but novel has a main plot or subplots. And I have to give the example of their plot, systematic episode or arrangement of event. And I have to give the example of, my dear friend, that your TV serials, a long TV serial, just like Tarak Mehta Ka Ulta Chashma, and there was a completed more than 3,000 episodes. Even the telecast of TV serial Mahabharata, Ramayana, and that was, we can say, the single narration of the story in a single number of the episode. But here in the TV serial, you find out that the main theme of that, there was a main theme of the character, and that even that was also the story of his friend, his families, and other many number of the stories. It was plot, and that's why it has a more or less complexity. There were plot, sometimes simple plot, sometimes some of the one single plot, and there are 2 or 3 or 4 subplot. There are 2 or 3 or 4 subplot in the A subplot in the, you can say that in the novel writing. And there are two types of the plot. Simple plot, it is a well beginning, middle and end. And complex plot, so sometimes it begins in the end of the story and remain the story tell in the flashback of the story. Sometimes it begin in the middle of the story and the first part or the later part was, we can say that after that, and it is called the complex plot. Okay friend, now we discuss about the character. We have to compare generally what is that in the story or plots of the simple plot. Why should they say that generally in the short story a writer, we can say that a writer draw the reader up to the just the gate of the garden. He could not enter the garden, but the novelist not only draw the reader up to the gate of the garden, but he enters the reader into garden and he can explain or narrate the beauty of the garden, a natural beauty of the birds, flower and every greenery and everything will narrate in the story. That's why the plot, and we can hear is the plot is a very main plot or member 2 or 3 subplot, because it has a considerable length, because a short story completed half and 1 hour, while a novel was going on unlimited time in the hand of the novelist, and it was possible when the plot is somehow more or less complex, or we can say that one plot or 2 or 3 subplot. Then character, you can say that there are the, it is whenever it is plot, novel is the gallery or universe of the character. Gallery of the character. We can say that because it was not possible that writer use one or two single character, and it is not